Bonjour, this is Jasmine. Thank you so much for stopping to smell the roses on Rue Madame. For those of you who are new to the neighborhood, I am a writer, a storyteller, and a community builder. I write about culture, politics, parenthood, and my life here in France. And if you want to have some creative writing in your life and more creativity, artistic motivation, head over to patreon.com/Rue Madame and sign up to the creative writing world where I showcase my creative writing. So you have essays, articles, sometimes podcasts, and full videos. So check that out. Thank you so much for supporting. Thank you to my patrons for being a part of this passion project. So this video, I am discussing legacy. What is legacy? And I was thinking more and more about this ever since the conversation I had with my cousin Jennifer, who is now a part of this passion project. And we were having a discussion about our motivations, our inspirations, and what we really want to leave behind for our children and do with our lives in general, especially after this tumultuous year. 2020 has kind of made us really look at purpose, intention, and the birth of Rue Madame is kind of a result of that introspection, that looking in within yourself and saying, what makes you happy? And what is your passion? And what are you good at? And writing is that. So doing this makes me happy. And I get joy out of really using everything in my head to produce something. And one of the things we also talked about is consuming less and creating more and actually doing something, giving to someone. So legacy, I was up all night. I know you can probably tell with the bags under my eyes. Just thinking about that, I couldn't sleep. And I was thinking about my next essay that I'm writing. It's actually the continuation of a short story. I have so many things going in my head. I wrote an article, just spontaneous, about Beauty and the Beast, sexism and feminism. And then I'm going to finish Hidden Fate, which I actually did a video about the essay I was doing. And legacy just stuck with me. Like, yes, I am doing Rue Madame, and this is very proud endeavor that I'm going on. But just the meaning of legacy, more particularly, to really dive into how that translate into reality, because it's really a grand word. Legacy, it's very high in theory, but in practice, what does that look like? And I was looking and thinking and remembering past relatives, the people in my life, my grandmother and my grandfather and my great-grandmother. And I was thinking about my grandfather, who passed away. I was early 20s or late teens. And I was looking at his legacy. What did he leave? What his life meant to our family? And it meant a great deal. He is a father of 7 children. He was the head of a household, and he worked tirelessly to have a roof over their heads and to then have a roof over the next generation, myself and my siblings. He was a wonderful husband to my grandmother. And legacy, when I look back and really think about it, is a combination of things. It's a combination of tangible items, tangible, what you can see, taste, touch, and also the intangible, or the things that you really can't see but are more abstract, but are just as significant. And I think my grandfather specifically, he had a very powerful, meaningful life, and he left behind many intangible items. What he instilled in his children, what he instilled in his grandchildren. He was a very hard worker. He worked, I don't know, maybe over 15, 20 years at a delivery company. And I just have those memories of him riding his big red truck and being very stern and compassionate all at the same time. Just those memories of being a phenomenal person. But the tangible, let's say, a tangible legacy is something I think we lack in general, especially in our community, because of the disadvantages and the predatory practices on the Black community in general. Because I would hear about people being left farms and factories and businesses, and they'll be left behind memorabilia like books that their grandparents wrote, or medals that they won, or things like that, things that you can actually touch and hold on to and as this your memory. And I was thinking, what was the tangible actual things you can hold in your hands that he left behind? And it was nothing of great significance as far as money wise, as the financial aspect of it, but just his favorite jacket. I know my mother kept for a long time, that she cherished, because that was the only real tangible thing you could say, okay, that was my father's, and it was special to her, and not a lot else. And I think what I've learned by past and present family members and experiences is the legacy I want to build for my heirs is a combination of both. And I think that is what is the most memorable and impactful, is a combination of tangible and intangible. And that's why what I want my legacy to be is in my words. I want my legacy to be in what I produce, as far as my writing, my creative writing, and my thoughts, which is why Rue Madame is so significant, in my opinion, because it is something that I can say, here, you can touch this, you can see this, it can be in the airways forever and ever and ever. And I think that is what I want my legacy to be. And I was thinking about his job, my grandfather's job, him working all those years. That is incredible work ethic, consistency, drive, that he can pass on. That's the intangible. But what does that result in his family years and years after he's gone? And I think investing in your work just as much as you invest in yourself is something we can do more of. Because what do you put your passion, your heart and soul in? I think that's what legacy is. What you put your heart and soul, your blood, sweat, and tears in. And I think investing in yourself is just as significant as a regular job. And I think we lose that because we have bills to pay. But I'm making this video to really emphasize the importance of building yourself up and investing in yourself and having something to leave on that isn't just a life of grinding for another person. Because I was thinking, the delivery company that my grandfather worked for, the person whose name is on that delivery company, the person who started the company, the person who gave or produced jobs for other people, is that combination of both intangible and tangible legacy. And his name will be stamped in history for having a passion, having a drive, having a project, or in this case, a company where he put his or her life into and was able to touch others. So my grandfather's life was touched and improved by this person's passion and life goal, if that makes sense. So that was my maternal grandfather. And while I was going down this memory lane, I was thinking of my paternal grandmother. I never met her. And that really never hit me as much as it is doing now. I never had that connection. She died before I was born. My sister, who's 9 years older than me, was just a baby when she passed away. So it was very far from my existence. And I only have pictures of her. And the fact that I'm closer with my maternal side than my paternal side, I really don't have those stories and those nuggets that can really bridge that gap of me not knowing her. Like my father didn't talk about his parents that much. He didn't talk about his parents that much. His mother, a lot less, because she died sooner than my paternal grandfather. And I was looking at her legacy. What did she leave behind? What significance, how she impacted our family? And I'm sure it was a great, great deal. But me being 1, 2, maybe 3 generations after, how can I have that connection with her after the fact? And she was a mother of 7 or 8 children, a lot. And she was a grandmother of many children also, or it was just 2 maybe at the time. A grandmother of 2 of my sister and brother, if I'm not mistaken. She was a very strong woman of faith. I'm not sure what she did for a living. I'm pretty sure she was a mother, principally. But before that, I don't know what she did. And that's unfortunate. I would really love to have my maybe aunts and uncles on to have a story time and to really discuss her legacy, because I really don't know it. And it really begs the question of, if you can't see it or touch it or really have a one-on-one connection with something from the past, it gets lost. And that's what I'm afraid that really important people in our history, in our lives, in our communities gets lost, because we don't have the thought, the forward thinking, because we're maybe not intentional enough with keeping a person's memory, legacy, significance in the family alive. With the intangible, we have that. We have that down pat. The significance of what she taught and what she believed in and how she touched her family members, her children, etc. That will never leave us. But for my children, for example, if I know very little about my grandmother, for sure my kids won't have that. So if we could put our passion, our energy into reserving that legacy, since we don't have the farm, we don't have the business with her name on it, stamped in ink, And we don't have the book that she wrote. We don't have these things that we can touch. And if I had that, maybe I'm like, oh, she wrote this. Let me look more into what she did and how she was thinking and what else she did. And legacy is where I want to focus more on, and reserving the legacy of members in the past, people that were important that may have gotten lost and maybe will continue to fizzle away with generations and generations after, because there's such a gap and there's no intentional storytelling or family reunions, for example. And I remember one time I was talking about my grandmother for some reason, and I I referred to her as my mom, my father's mom, my dad's mom. And I remember my aunt having to remind me, that was your grandmother. Oh yeah, that's my grandmother. Yes, that is my grandmother. But since there's such a gap, and since I never seen her, and since there was no contact, and since there's not a lot of talk about her in a significant way, in my mind, as generations after, in my head, is just my dad's mom. You know what I mean? That was somebody to him. It's somebody to me. She was very important to my life. She was somebody to me. But in my head, she she is a stranger. She will be a stranger unless someone acquaints me to her. And since there was no real introduction or acquaintance or reverence to her life that was significant in a significant way to my life, there's a disconnect. And that's no fault to, I don't think, to anyone in particular. I think that's just how life is. But really pointing it out and saying, wow, you do have a disconnect, and you know she's important to you, but you really don't know how to verbalize that or show that because you have nothing to wrap your arms around. And I guess it's it's my responsibility to bridge that gap. It's my responsibility now, since you have that hindsight, that afterthought, that's important. That is important. It's not just my dad's mother, it's my grandmother. And the reason why I think I had that disconnection is because maybe it's because of my relationship with my maternal grandmother. And my maternal grandmother is not just my mom's mom, it's my grandmother, because she raised me. She housed me. She burped me. She fed me. She raised us. And that's why I think there's also an unfortunate disconnect, because I know what a grandmother is. This is what she looks like. This is, how she reacts when we do something silly. This is how painful a whooping is when, she doesn't like something. This is what I have of my grandmother. And since I never had that connection with my paternal grandmother, it was just someone significant to my father. It was such a big gap between the two. They're both my grandmother. I love dearly both of them. But one, I have that connection with. I have those memories with. I have the scent of her cooking. I have that generational envelope of togetherness and passing on of information, etc. And this grandmother is just a picture, one picture that I remember seeing of her. And it's unfortunate that the legacy is faded. The legacy has faded. So I want to come to my last point when we're talking about legacy. We already talked about financial legacy, tangible legacy, intangible legacy, the passing on of ideas, work ethic, etc. But I want to talk about a very particular subject. And I was having this conversation with two relatives, a man and a woman. And my female relative, she was talking about her partner who she'd separated from, and they had a tumultuous breakup. It was not great. And we were talking about passing on your name. They weren't married. The man was abusive emotionally, habitual liar, and he didn't take care of their son that they had together. And she was distraught. She was distraught about it. She was, very strong and resilient, and she was, continuing her life, doing very well. But she was sympathetic to the fact or the idea of leaving the man's name, passing on her partner's name to their son. And my male relative agreed. Like, oh yeah, that's all men have is their legacy and their name and their namesake. And that's important. And yes, you should give your son his name. I was the only oddball, I guess. And I disagreed. No, you're not getting his name. No. Okay, let me calm down. I don't want to get too excited before I even begin. What? So he deserves to pass on his name just because he's a man? No, thank you. I don't think the bloodline, like they were insistent on, the bloodline and the namesake, and why is his name more important than the woman's name? Why is his name more important than the woman's name who happened to be taking care of the kid, to be mothering her child, to be the staple in his existence? If the mother wasn't there, the deadbeat dad wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, she's taking up everything. And to reward her, you say, oh, well, the man still deserves the name. Why? And I'm all for traditional gender roles. I'm all for traditions in general. Okay, well, it's tradition to have the man pass on his name. Fine. My kids have their father's name. I have their father's name. We all have a unified, name. We're all on the same page. That's fine. But if you're not raising your kid, you're not there for them. You're not waking up in the middle of the night when they're sick. You're not brushing their teeth in the morning. You're not taking them to doctor's appointment. You're not picking them up from school. You're not doing any of that. Why should your name be on my child? Period. No. And I'm all for, having your place. Okay? A man and woman are at their designated place. It's not set in stone, which I think people are confused about. Like, things can change. You know what I mean? You don't have to do exactly this because of your gender. It's a choice. If you want more on this, because I did a whole article on it, I already told you about it. Feminism and sexism. This was a conversation with a friend. Check that out on Patreon. make a pledge and get all the access to the intricacies of my brain and how I think. But no, submission is deserved. It's earned. You don't automatically get things because you're a man or a woman. You have to earn that. So if you didn't earn your name to be tied to this young little boy, then no, it's not a legacy. Is it just your name? Legacy is how you lived your life. And if you haven't lived your life up to par to pass on your name, no way. No way. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's so absurd to just say, oh, he's the man, he deserves his name. And yeah, I think it's just so messed up. I think it's so messed up. No. So with that being said, if you haven't sat and thought about if that made sense, if it's fair, if it's logical, then no, I don't think just doing something because it's tradition, because that's how it's done, makes sense to me. So again, if it was me and my son, yeah, he would have my name. And it's not about man or woman here. It's about fair. That's fair. If I'm taking care of my kid and I'm the sole guardian and this guy has completely abandoned his role, then he's abandoned his role as given on his name. I'm married. I took my husband's name. My kids have their father's name. There's no hyphen, and I'm all for that. And it's okay. It's a question of, do you deserve it? Have you earned that? If you want to lead, if you want to be the father, if you want to be the head, if you want to be the leader, then earn that. Deserve that. And submission, being submissive, is also earned. You deserve that. So if you haven't earned it, and if you don't deserve it, then no. But I am more than happy and willing, and have, in fact, in my own life done it, been submissive. I love, it's fine. But if you're absent, if you're not around, and I'm not talking about just, oh, I pay child support, I should have my name on my son's birth certificate. No. Again, tangible and intangible. Yeah, money is something just tangible. What about the intangible? Legacy is both. And if you want to have the legacy of your children and the name passed on, then you have to have both to merit your name being passed on. And I don't think the sexist traditional norms that we're used to should hold up anymore. That should not hold up. Oh, well, and they were talking about how, oh, there's no more boys in our family and no one's having boys and we need to pass on the name and all this ridiculousness. Like, no. So the girls aren't as significant. It's kind of like when I was talking to my cousins, Spencer and Rebecca, just going down, I don't know, an ancient medieval times or something like that, this type of bloodline, royal ideology. No, I don't. Maybe it's just our Eurocentric thinking, but no, we are not Kate and I don't know who else. What's his name? And William of London. No, this is not that. So tell me what you think. Am I just completely out of my mind? Or do you agree? And what does legacy mean to you? What is that tangible and intangible that you can pass on? And let's further the conversation. And again, head over to Patreon to get more details, because I want to continue this over there to really get into it more. So thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.